Morning, everyone. As promised, I am going to try to demonstrate for you guys how to subdivide a parcel using Civil 3D 2017. Um, as we all know, the unfortunate process we have not been able to meet via. So we are meeting via the electronic communications method today. The COVID-19 process has kind of kept us away from campus. So therefore, I am going to demonstrate for you guys using 2017. I do know that some of you cannot access the software, so this is more going to be a demonstration. So please watch as I go through the steps. There will be a series of videos that will lead us up to the at least the how-to process of subdividing a parcel. So I'm going to begin by showing you some additional pieces of information. One, I am going to open up our AutoCAD drawing, which is running in the background here, and I'll be moving back and forth. You should be able to see me as I speak through the information given. One of the first things we would do here is look at what are the requirements for the subdivision and the particular parcel of ground that we are going to subdivide. So I am going to open up right now. I'm going to go into some screen sharing options here and let you all have a chance to take a look at the parcels. Okay, I'm going to start out with this first drawing here and share that with you. All right, I'm going to that. So, okay, here is a standard AutoCAD screen. I'm using AutoCAD 2017. This, excuse me, parcel should look familiar. This is the parcel I had sent you all electronically. And I've done a few things already to this. I want to call to your attention that I have in fact created a surface. In this situation, I provided you with a parcel of ground which shows a road on the outside edges here on the what would be the westerly side and the southerly side of the parcel, with of course north going up. There's also information on how it fits into the section and township and range, and you can see that our parcel size is about right here. It is bounded by some points around it that actually define the outer boundaries of the parcel. And you can see by the points that are listed here that there are points on the edges of each of the property. We are going to start with that particular ground. And as I mentioned, I did give you the contours. The contours are 2-foot contour intervals, and the 2-foot contour intervals have both major and minor contour intervals there. These contours, we know they have three-dimensional characteristics, because if you looked at some of the information on there, you would see that there is an elevation that's associated with each of the contour lines. So as I mentioned, in order to get started with this, I have to create a surface. So if you'll look up here off to the left-hand side over in our tool space, you'll notice that we have surfaces. Under surfaces, you'll notice that I do have a surface called existing ground here. The existing, and I also gave it the date. I usually like to associate a date with my, when I start calling things, because in the event that we go out, gather more fill data or change our surface for some reason, we'd be able to keep track of the changes by date. This is not required by Civil 3D, but it's a good practice to be in. The next thing I do is, once I define my existing ground, I had to define the, once I've established my existing ground layer or surface, I have to define what sort of data is going to be put into that. So in that situation, I went into contours. So I went into existing ground, I went into the subset bar that says definition. I then defined definition, and then I moved open definition up, went to and gave the the options of what we would define the surface with. In this situation, we use contours. I clicked on the contour tab. When I clicked on the contour tab, I then right-click on the contour tab and say add. At that time, I went through and I used the drawing itself to actually grab each and every one of those contour lines that you see right there. I was careful not to grab the roadways or the outer boundary lines or any of the lot information. That information, or I'm sorry, the roadway information. That information does not have three-dimensional characteristics and is something you don't want to add into your contours. So therefore, I am confident that my contour surface is correct. And I did check this by running a quick profile line across that area that shows that ditch right there. That actually helps me define whether or not my my contour data and my three-dimensional surface is working. So at this stage in the game, I'm very confident that my contours are three-dimensional and my surface data is correct. So at this point, I would like to start talking about my subdivision and how I'm going to go about actually cutting up the subdivision. Okay, so the first step I'd like to start out with is talking to you a little bit about subdivision regulations. In a slide, a video to come up, I will explain to you about how you would look up the local, city, state, federal governing agencies and decide what sort of subdivision regulations you have to comply with. This is usually, and most of the time, a function of the county that the subdivision exists in. If you happen to be in the city, then you would probably have to comply to both the city and county regulations. And obviously if you're in the United States, then of course you'd have to comply to the both state and federal guidelines along the way. So there are a series of rules that you would have to follow in the process of subdivision. In this parcel, we're actually going to be talking about lots that will be 2 acres, 1 and 2 acre lots. With 1 and 2 acre lots, that's fairly small lots. City subdivisions could even get smaller than that. But in this situation, we're going to do 1 and 2 acre lots. Just from an engineering standpoint, the lot size is something that we look at because we're trying to look at how how the subdivision is going to be inhabited. Is it going to be by multiple family type uses, or is it going to be single families? Are we going to have areas where we have commercial properties versus residential properties? Is this going to be more rural land? Is it going to be more urban? Things of those nature really do define that. Much of that is defined by also the terrain of the land. If the land is fairly steep, your parcels would have to be larger so that you could have buildable areas on there. One of the things that a developer would always look at is what sort of land characteristics do you have, and can there actually be homes built on the location you're talking about. So those are all considerations. So what we are going to do is comply with the City of Pueblo Subdivision Regulations, Title 16, which we'll talk about on a different set of slides. For now, I'm going to start out with some basic parameters. So when I decide to subdivide a parcel, I always look at spatial relationships and the size of the parcels. So I will tell you that this parcel, first thing I would have normally done at this stage in the game would be to run a area around a particular area in which I'm going to subdivide. That would be this area that is contained north of this road, east of this road, and south of this line, and west of this line. That's the area which we're going to do our subdivision. So I would have run a parcel, an actual land survey all the way around the corners of that, and actually define that parcel right there and find my overall acreage. I'll tell you just to expedite this process, I have done that, and this parcel actually is about 80 acres. So the first thing we're going to do is decide where would we put our roadways in our 80 acres, and how would we have access, both ingress and egress, to each of the lots that we would be cutting up. I also like to do something that I feel is really important, and that is to decide about some spatial relationships. So I have, in advance of this lecture, done some spatial relationship tools that I find sort of beneficial in this. This is not always the way they're going to be, and you will find out that in most subdivisions, the lots are not always rectangular. As a matter of fact, normally they would be more a function of the property and the relationship of the ground characteristics and the features within the ground. But in our situation, I start out with sort of doing some spatial relationships. So I'm going to navigate up here into my layers, and I've created a layer over here called 01 Road Trials, and I'm going to click and open that. And let's see here, I need to turn that layer on. I currently have that layer frozen, and I am going to turn it on, and I am going to come up here. I want to actually be working in the 0 layer, but you'll notice right here that some lot lines have shown up here. What I have done over here on the right-hand side is given you some spatial relationship sort of features. As I mentioned here, we have decided that we're going to use something, and I'm gonna call them 1 and 2 acre lots. Now, this is not something that's in the subdivision regulations, but is something that we as the developer wants to do. Now, the subdivision regulations may say what a minimum size lot is, and I'm not sure if they would define maximum, but it would be in the developer's best interest to try to maximize the amount of lots they can get in the subdivision. Of course, the function of this is to sell off each of the lots individually and provide individual locations and be able to convey the properties as a parcel or smaller parcels of the overall parcel. So over here, what I've done is, since I know 2 and 1 acres would be my desired lot sizes, I have just taken an acre, which is an acre is equal to 43,560 square feet. So what I've done is I've taken one area, surface area acre, and I've done the square root of an acre, and the square root of an acre is roughly 208 and change by 208 and change if you look at the distances of that. So I've made a square over here off and to the right-hand side that shows a 1 acre parcel, or the size of a square of a 1 acre parcel. I also have a rectangular 2 acre parcel here. Simply take the 43,560, multiply it times 2, and take the square root of it, and you'll notice that a 2 acre square parcel is 295 feet by 295 feet. Also down here, I did something that's a little bit different, where I have a larger, more rectangular lot where it's 200 feet across the front and 435 feet deep. That's also a 2 acre parcel, but you notice that we get our 2 acres, but in a sort of a different sort of configuration. The reason I like to do this is it helps me as a planning tool decide what exactly I would like to do with my parcels. Okay, so knowing that, I have some distances here that I've actually going to be using at this time. I'm sorry, I'm going to resume the share here. Okay, I have done something here where I've decided that along this area here, I am going to put a roadway in. Now, the subdivision regulations do require that we provide access to each and every one of the lots as the developer. And again, remember, we're the developer's representative here in preparing the subdivision for that. So it's going to be our responsibility to find a roadway that would best be conducive to the regulations and still help our clients along the way. There are also some other considerations that would have to be made that we'll talk about when we talk about the subdivision regulations. For right now, I'm going to start out by saying I've kind of jumped the gun a little bit here and told you that we're going to create 1 acre parcels, 1 and 2 acre parcels, and that is what that our client's design criterion is right here. So I started out by saying, okay, if I did have a 1 or 2 acre parcel, where would I want to start my subdivision? So I have decided that I would like to have my roadway internally within my subdivision. The reason I want my roadway internally within the subdivision is this way I can have accessibility off of each side of the road for all of the lots. If I were to put the roadway on the outside edge of the subdivision, then that would mean I would only be able to access my property from one side of the road or the other. This way I'm going to be able to access the properties from both sides of the road. The subdivision requirements would require that I have a main street or a main thoroughfare where the majority of the traffic would go. And then I have a secondary roadways. All of the other roadways would be secondary. What that means for us is we would have to look up the regulations for the city government. In this situation, I'm just using some arbitrary rules that I have developed myself. One being that a main roadway is going to be 80 foot wide. A secondary roadway would be 60 foot wide. That would be shown here by the lots I'm showing here representing the sizes of 60 foot roadways and 80 foot roadways. Okay, so knowing that I'm going to be using mains as 80 foot wide roadways. Now be careful about that. That 80 foot roadway is the distance between the right of way. That doesn't necessarily mean the buildable area of the roadway within. As a matter of fact, in most situations, it would not be. The roadway is usually something smaller, but is designed to fit within that right of way structure that we're talking about. I am going to start out now by showing you what I did right here. So up here, and I'm going to start in the upper right-hand corner, upper left-hand corner of the parcel here. And I'm going to begin by saying, okay, I think that I would rather not have the roadway go all the way to the upper line. So I'm going to start the roadway in here. I would think that in this area up along here, it would be a good place to put in some 1 acre parcels and possibly some 1 acre parcels here along the side. That 1 acre parcel would separate. And then as I move down here in the bottom, some possible 2 acre parcels along here in the bottom. And then, so it looks like that would define with me again, how I would define off of this major roadway. Now, one of the considerations I would be wanting to pull to your attention is that this major roadway does have some restrictive, some requirements as per the municipal government. Those are that you can only ingress and egress or access onto this property in one particular location, and it has to be defined. Well, in our situation, we need one for ingress, which is one to come in and one to go out. So in this situation, I only touch this existing roadway in 2 places, one up here and one down here, or that's where I'm proposing to do that. Now, there are some regulations that I do want to call to your attention. The municipal government has a requirement that the only way you can access off of a major street like this would be to intersect it at a 90-degree angle, or they use the term perpendicular. So it has to hit it at perpendicular to the center line of this road. So I would have to find the center line and make sure that my roadway is exactly 90 degrees, at least on the entrance and exit of the properties. As you can see, this one right here most likely won't be. So we would have to find out where this would be and make sure that we would intersect this roadway perpendicular. But for our planning tools right now, we're just going to go ahead and do some preliminary planning here with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've decided, okay, I'm going to start out with this main roadway. This is an 80-foot wide roadway. I did say that I want to be able to create parcels that would be up in here at least 1 acre, parcels in this area that are at least 1 acre. So what I have done here is I've done a couple of things. I've looked at this roadway and said, okay, what if I decide I'm going to come over here, put in my main roadway to start here, travel along here, and travel all the way through here and exit out right here. That main roadway would then be 80-foot wide and have to comply to all the rules for a main roadway. I am going to use that. Now, what I want to do is make sure that I have the ability to put some lots up here and lots right here. So I want to do that by making sure that I have enough space between here and here to cut some lots up. So using my information over here, I do know that 208 feet is the minimum distance I would need to get a square lot. So what I have simply done is I've just drawn an arbitrary line here, starting about right here, and I've offset it 208 feet. That's the distance between this line and this line. That gives me an idea that I could make some square lots along the top right here. And over here, I've made a 208-foot line also. But I also realize that I have a lot more space down here, and I'm going to need to access this. So I've decided that I'm going to maybe use the 95-foot lots or the 2-acre parcels and perhaps make some 2-acre parcels along the way here. Now, this is something that you would be discussing, obviously, with your client and talking about how this space is to be used. So I think I'd like to put some maybe rectangular or some perfectly square 2-acre lots in here, some 1-acre lots across the top. So what I've done is I've simply offset this one at the 208, offset this one at the 295. I've then offset this one here also at the 295. Now, one of the considerations I'm making on these lots is notice how the contours are steeper right here. With the contours being closer and tighter together, I would expect this ground to be more sloping. Therefore, I would want larger lots. Therefore, the client could find a good buildable area within there. So that would be a consideration we would make. Okay, so therefore, that given, I have offset this line 208 feet, this line 295 feet, this line 295 feet, and this line down here, I'm looking at, oh, what if I used a 2-acre rectangular parcels over here and made some longer and thinner lots along the way right here. So therefore, I have decided to set this line 435 feet off so that I would be able to create some larger rectangular 2-acre parcels along this south line here. Excuse me. Therefore, that's kind of my preliminary criteria, and I'm going to start out by creating a roadway here. So I'm going to start out by using my P-line command, and we will then create a roadway along the area there. So using P-line, I'm going to come in here on my layer, and I am going to start by saying P-line, standing for polyline. With that polyline, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start. Now I'm going to start on the right of way of this lot, even though of this roadway. I could look at some other considerations here, but for now I'm going to start there just because I've done a little bit of preliminary investigation. Then I'm going to move over here and I'm going to intersect my main road where I decided to make right there. And I've decided to come all the way down. And in this situation, I'm also going to just intersect this main roadway here. Let's see. I think I'm going to intersect it a little bit more over here. I'm going to do that. I want to turn my O snaps off because it is causing me a little bit of problems here. So let me turn that. It looks like it's snapping to the end of the line there. And I will then come over here, and I think I will put it right about maybe possibly here. Okay. Now, I do know that that's not doing perpendicular to the roadway, but what I want to do is make sure that this ditch right here doesn't get into my properties. So I've made it a little bit different on my change, but at least I am considering the sort of the lot sizes that I was talking about here. So now that I've created a polyline, now I would come in and actually trim this polyline so that it would intersect the property line at this situation, but for now, I want to make sure, well, actually, maybe I can do that right now. I'm going to use the trim command. Come right here and see if I can trim off that parcel. So now I do have a polyline, two polylines actually, one here and one here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the alignment command to create a roadway. I'm going to come in here with the word, pick alignment. I'm going to go into alignment, create an alignment from an object. I click that. Now, and again, remember, we've done this in class earlier. And in this situation, what I would want to do is click my profile, or I'm sorry, my polyline. And when I click that polyline, notice that it picks the entire polyline because it was one continuous line and takes it all the way through there. So I hit an enter at this stage in the game. It will ask me if I want the parcel to be in the area that in the direction that which shows here, which is indicated by the arrow here, meaning that stationing will begin here and progress all the way around. If I would like to reverse that at this stage, I could hit an R for reverse or just accept that. I'm going to accept that and go on and enter. Now I end up with the creation alignment dialog box that we've gotten in the past. And in this situation, I'm going to start by calling this road. This is going to be my main street. So we'll simply call it Main Street. This is going to be the center line of the street. Here I would put a quick description saying this is the main main street for new sub. And we're going to start at station 0+00. The site location right now is going to come along here when we start breaking up lots. But for now, I'm not going to be concerned about that. I'm just going to start out by doing that one there. And now I'm going to come over here and it says this is a proposed alignment. We're going to do the alignment street. This is major and minor. This is the alignment label style. In this situation, I'll go ahead and I'll pick all labels, even though all labels might be a little bit much for us. I'm going to go ahead and throw them on there just because it's the defaults. Also over here, if you notice, it says that it will put in every curve here, it will make sure that we will have a 200-foot radius on the curve. I'm going to do that right here because this is my main street that we're talking about here. And I want to make sure that traffic can flow rather easily through this particular area. So I'm going to go ahead and leave my roadway in there like that. I'm going to leave the 200-foot requirement in here. Also, one of the things I could do here is I could use the American Association for State Highway and Testing Officials, and we can use the 2011 criterion for roadway design for the different speeds of a particular roadway. In this situation, we've set it up for a 60-mile roadway. I'm going to cut that down to about a 45-mile roadway because this is internally within a subdivision. And I'm going to say, okay. If I did say criterion-based design, then of course we could have different criterion that we would do. In this situation, I'm just going to go ahead and accept those. and I go 3. Now if you notice, what will happen now is our roadway is now stationed at 100-foot intervals and progresses its way all the way around here. So now I do know that this parcel, that this roadway is not exactly like my preliminary lines, but they do sort of parallel my philosophy in the way I want to do this. So at this stage in the game, I have just created my first alignment for my roadway. I will, in the next video, come back and we will offset these and be able to create, start creating our parcel. At this time, I'm going to stop right here. Make sure, as always, to save and save often. So I will save, and I will see you all in our next video.